too.
So we're trying to get them to do a new developers agreement.
Scott, she wants to sit down.
I'm not the one isolating myself from everyone else.
Well, I don't want to catch that knee disease you guys get down there. Okay, I would like to call to order this.
I actually missed it.
I would like to call to order this September 6th workshop of the High Springs Community Redevelopment Agency. If you would join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Oh, I can get it. I'm sorry, I can get over this. Yeah.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Jenny, would you do roll call, please?
Yes. Chair Lavin.
Here.
Vice Chair James is absent. Member Jameson.
Here.
Member Jones.
Here.
And Member Williams.
Okay. So the first part of what we're doing here tonight is the CRA plan visioning, the public participation portion, and I'm going to turn this over to our CRA Director, Christina Ryan.
Yeah, I just want to welcome everyone and thank you all for coming. As many of you know, we're in the process of extending our CRA and also revising the boundary. So tonight we're going to do public participation and visioning. We're going to look at each plan objective, and there's a series of questions I will hand out. There's a handout, and each one will kind of make you think about, like, what can we do to make this better? And then you're free to have, if there's anything that doesn't fit in those categories, also at the end. And so at the end, we're going to compile everybody, and each group is going to have a spokesperson that will present to the group, and we'll compile all these findings, and we'll use those to update our CRA plan, and also the ones that are more project-oriented, we'll put them on our project wish list. So tonight's exercise is very important, but it should be fun, and at any time, if you have any questions, feel free to ask, but we'll probably split up, I think, into 4 groups of 4, I think we have. So we'll just go ahead and get started.
Okay, you're in charge. You do it. You want us to go down there, or you want us to stay here? Okay. She said we can go down there and join you. You can get your coffee.
Okay.
I'll get your coffee.
That's why I come to these meetings now. For my coffee.
Just pass them.
Be careful.
Everybody to answer at least one objective. I know there's some questions. Some of the questions are just to try to joggle in case we were thinking of something. But if we can have at least one answer from each person for each objective, that would be nice.
Which we have somebody in our
Puppy dog face.
By the way,
or
a group of 5, that's fine too.
Really? I don't think so. You must be talking to Jenny.
Oh, I looked around, I didn't know.
I don't read it.
We have to turn around.
It's in the engineer
No, how I know. Then he goes to Africa. He is, oh God.
Hello? I don't think they can hear me. Can you hear me? Okay, we're going to start
Excuse
our
me.
6:30 meeting
Attention.
late because we got started with our visioning late. Okay? We'll wait. How much time do you want?
We want a group photo.
Oh man, the red Grange era. Yep.
Excuse me, let me come through before you sit down.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay. Did you ever do?
Well, that's what they said when I called you up today. So I'm just gonna take it easy, huh?
That's nice, honey. You probably have some information.
I have.
Yeah, so I'm on my phone today and she said, so I just told Mom I have to take it easy.
This one. Okay.
People say, okay, sorry, you're not my man.
So,
Okay. Come on over here, sir. 50 cents a word. Don't listen to him.
That is-
You a hard time.
I'd love to see some of that. I'd really bring it in. Maybe we'll put it on the agenda.
Okay, are you going to run it now?
Me?
Yes.
I don't think so. I'm just getting out of the way.
Christina, do you want to come up and go over those?
Yeah, actually, if each person, group one, do you guys want to go ahead and do yours? Sure. Volunteer? Yeah.
Sure. I've got everybody else signed up. This is a one clean. Station from the city to CRA. So we have.
Okay.
We're gonna have both the mayor and
If we
vice
could use the
mayors.
microphone, there's the microphone on the table there.
Wait. Just so that it
Now
goes to the
it's-
recording.
Okay, there's a lot of signatures.
It is.
Just try to talk it.
Good evening. My name is Nkwanda Ja. I'm from Gainesville with this Community Land Trust, and I want to first of all say thank you very much for allowing me to be a part of your visioning this evening. This is
Yvonne Andrews.
the expert in our group. So, objective number one was we looked at local businesses, and she shared with us some of the ideas that she had heard from this community, which was a beautician, a small food shop, a small restaurant, laundromat, commercial space with infrastructure of 100,000 square foot building, and by infrastructure, we also want to include roads and wastewater and all of those kinds of things. Objective two, we looked with our community centers, and we put strong emphasis on youth programs. We met teenagers. Usually when people plan, they're talking about the little kids, but we need to make sure that we have activities for our teenagers, because you all know what idle minds what can happen. A historical library or museum, return to the community. The sister talked about a building that had been moved to another area. What was the name?
The Gabrielle Library. It had been moved to the Community School, and we look back to be returned to the community once we redevelop the area.
And we're hoping that, in Gainesville, CRA is helping us with historical heritage trail, so maybe CRA can also help to do this here. Objective 3, planned unit development. Acronyms being PUD, and we had someone from housing in our group who talked about that, and it's multiple housing. But we also looked at the fact that this community really supports single family dwellings, definitely no more than duplexes or 2 apartments. But so we want to emphasize that. Objective 5, different programs that we looked at was SHIP, which is State Housing Initiative Partnership, CDBG, Community Development Block Grants, USDA funding, banks, CRA, bond issue through the county. Objective 4, we thought to plant some gardens, native plants that's native to your area, some fruit trees, so you're not only doing something that's beautiful, but you can eat it too. Objective 6 was to add sidewalks and bike paths. And that's
Very good.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, would the next group come up? I think it's group 2 that's up there. Here, I can pass the baton.
Pass the baton. Okay, so I'm Linda Hewlett, and we just realized when we got the map that we are actually included. Our house is included in the new CRA district. Very exciting. Oh, the little button. Gotcha. Thank you. See, you are an expert. You have to keep.
Just hold it there.
Okay, I was just trying to match it more so it holds on.
Yeah.
All right, so the first thing is objective 1. That was concerning commercial activity and economic development, and our big emphasis was places for tourists to visit, and then somebody noted people looking for coffee shops, and then we have a coffee shop. The cookie, this little store over there is actually a place for a good coffee, but it really doesn't look like it's part of the downtown area. As well as the new survival store on 441, none of them look like they're part of that. So if we could keep the area that we define as downtown unified with the plantings, with the lights, with the little banners hanging off the street lights, that could be unified, and maybe some signage indicating that the downtown continues beyond just Main Street. Okay, and then we have a very expert cave diver person in our group, and he really wanted to make this place more welcoming for cave divers. He wanted there to be a big destination hotel that catered to cave divers and people that like to watch cave divers come and go. And so he said that our shop down here downtown, Extreme Exposure, to keep themselves in business, they have to rent houses and provide places for the cave divers and their entourage to stay. So there's a big need for housing for the cave divers. And more places to stay in general. Okay, Mr. Eckberg, please explain that part again. I wrote what you said, but I need you to explain it. You have to get to a mic though. Get up. It says data that is inclusive of a 10-mile radius by county or zip code.
Yeah.
You have to speak in a mic.
If you just,
I learned that the last meeting because they had to tell me like 10 times.
if you look at the data for High Springs, our income, our population, and all of that,
we're a really small community, and a lot of people shouldn't be interested in our size based on the data. But we're at the edge of 3 counties. If you don't look at data based on county or zip code, and you actually just draw like a 10-mile circle around the center of High Springs, the income, tourism, and everything else is just way off the chart. And that data isn't collected or presented that way anymore.
Excellent. And now for objective number 2, public infrastructure, parks and public spaces. We really would like to get our young kids and teenagers out of the downtown Next Red Outdoors area and put them in a Boys and Girls Club. I think Gainesville is very close to the Boys and Girls Club. And if we located that, perhaps in the Douglas area, I have heard people say that the Douglas area was more of a unified community atmosphere when they had a school located there. And I think a Boys and Girls Club would have that same effect because there would be sports to cheer for, you know, to get our kids out there and the other people there yelling for them. And so that'd be good. And I love the idea of including teenagers. Yeah, keep them busy. And improve the roads. Oh, the roads in Douglas, you have to. Woo. Anyway, it's terrible. And better housing. Maybe get rid of the vacant, broken down places and put up something a little better, or just at least have cleared lots instead of trash things. And then downtown, we wanted a place for vehicles that had trailers that they were towing and large buses and stuff like that to park. Be more welcoming for that. Sometimes those trailers and buses get into a place here and they'll take 5 parking spaces up. And that messes up parking for everybody. More parking downtown, better sidewalks downtown. It was mentioned that because if you're at either end of the sidewalk, there's a ramp. But if you're anywhere in the middle, there's a narrow step and then a big step. And it's very hard for even people without any handicaps to get up and down those. All right. Then a walking and bike trail to the river, hopefully all the way to Newberry also. And then this was a big thing, a big community center. Me and the dive expert there, we are on Parks and Rec, and we really have a vision for a big community center that will house volleyball, basketball, and be able to have other meetings and things there. Similar to ones, if you've been to downtown in Alachua, there's a big center there. So that we've seen used for many things, and that's awesome. And then with housing, objective 3, affordable housing, mixed use. A couple of our people had this idea, they've heard of it in other communities, where you can have, the owner occupies the house and then makes some arrangements within the house or within the property for rentals like Airbnbs kind of situation. Then you could have small residential homes being able to make a little extra money and help the owner and then help all these people looking for places to stay. Number 3, housing, better roads, lighting, and then number 4, visual environment, more trees, and native. Thank you for that. Native is critical. Native trees, tree maintenance. We're not getting any tree maintenance in the city. And unified signage to include some Main Street nodes. Always are. Better lighting in streets. Street furniture with more benches around. Good. This number 5 was a big deal. For sustainability, finance, our landlords in this downtown area have a very, very old-fashioned way of, somebody rents their building and they think their job is now done. If the floors cave in, if there's a fire hazard, anything like that, they don't see that. So get our landlords educated as to what a proper landlord does and how a proper landlord treats his things.
And how they can make the most per square foot.
Yeah, make the most per square foot.
Okay. Tucker, you want to come up?
I don't need it, I'll point. My name's Tucker Smith. If you guys don't recognize me, it's probably because I've never seen any of you ever in my life. But just to take a chance, if that's okay, just to introduce myself so I can meet everybody in one swoop. I'm from Alachua. My wife's from High Springs. Her family's from High Springs. We just built a house here. She works in Gainesville. I work all over the place. I'm in real estate. And some of my clients purchased the block catty corner from Great Outdoors a while back where hospice is. And so I'm kind of getting involved, on their behalf because they're really, really interested in what the community has to say, what we can do to kind of contribute there. And also, since my wife and I have invested here, by building a home and planning on hopefully raising a family here, I think it's kind of a duty for me to get as involved as I can. So if I miss anything, any of my group, feel free to blurt it out. But on objective one, incentives and programs, downtown parking, around Douglas, and inserting some commercial structures like everyone else has said we think would be a big benefit. And then maybe, everyone has some ideas of what to put in there, but ultimately seeing what, the folks that live there, if their vocations can be applied in High Springs. A dining establishment there close to Douglas, just in the downtown area, so some of the neighborhoods kind of on the outskirts can reach it, in walking distance, bike riding distance. And also a corner store, and maybe a mixture of the two, somewhere where you can run and get a jug of milk or a carton of eggs, but then also maybe after a day at the park, stop in and get a sub or, just a quick hot meal. What would support advanced levels of commerce? One thing we talked about is an additional well utilizing the Swanee River water management property that the city now has the potential to insert a new well field on. I think Miss Nancy said we're just lacking some grant money maybe, so.
We just need him to find $1 million, and when he does that, then we can do.
Yeah. And then like this gentleman said, we are kind of in a unique, High Springs isn't that big, but we have the opportunity to serve the entire area between High Springs and Lake City. Also east and then out towards Jonesville and Newberry. There's a lot of people that live there with not a whole lot of commercial activity. So one thing we talked about was like just a general market somewhere, an alternative, something like an Aldi that offers affordable, food and items, things like that. Objective 2, streetlights and sidewalks in the neighborhoods, downtown parking again, a covered pavilion possibly at the Catherine Taylor site, something, just an alternative for live music or events or gatherings, things like that. And then a park on the Rails to Trails property is something that we talked about. Objective 3, our answer to what types of housing the CRA district needed was affordable. I think everybody agrees there. And then we talked about, the potential for multi-story properties. I think we have the ability to go 3 stories high. So using that to our advantage, not necessarily in the form of apartments, but smaller duplexes or maybe even triplexes, whether those be each owned by one person with the opportunity for rental income, or owned separate ownership like a condo or a townhouse. And then mixed-use commercial was another thing our group was interested in. Businesses on story 1 and the opportunity for someone to either rent upstairs or the business owner to live there potentially. Objective 4, we thought it would be cool to have all the neighborhoods have signage, so someone like me who maybe doesn't know where all the historic sites are could take a day to ride around town and see where these neighborhoods actually are, because I promise you, if you go out to the public, the vast majority of people aren't going to have a clue where any of these are. Unified signage, both for neighborhoods and the downtown district, like you guys mentioned, that kind of ties everything together. Objective 5, garbage and better garbage and recycling programs throughout town for people walking at the parks.
What's the minute before local park in town? What was that one you didn't touch on? Is that like
landscape, street furniture, and or public art. So High Springs is a super artistic community, and we thought, if there's an opportunity to have
We have
public art like that.
We have a beautiful mural right across the street. We have some on the other side of some of our commercial buildings. So murals.
Yeah, and I haven't heard anyone say anything very good about that. So more of that, we thought as a group would be awesome. And then when kids are at the park or someone's walking around town, whether they be local or tourists coming in shopping, just to make sure that there's plenty of places for them to put their garbage, to have the opportunity to recycle, stuff like that. Objective 6, we all kind of came to a consensus. We felt that the community was pretty safe, but street lights in a lot of neighborhoods are something that we're lacking. And then one thing we talked about, I just found out about this today from one of my clients. There's an app called Nextdoor. Nextdoor basically picks an area for you based on your address and the number of people that live in that area. And you can kind of think of it as like a Facebook, but your only friends are your neighbors. And so one example would be summertime. If you have kids, they're out of school, you could put up there that all your neighbors would see, hey, Billy and Joe are out of school, they're raking leaves and mowing yards this summer. Or if you had a issue with you need some gutters fixed, you could say, hey, neighbors, who would you recommend to come, who's reliable, who would you refer to come take a look at this issue that I have. That's an app, it's free, it's available to everybody. As a community in your specific neighborhoods, that'd be great, but then also we thought for the city to kind of be involved there too and be able to contribute things that they know, events like this, make announcements, would kind of help tie everything together. I think that's about it.
Okay, so do we close the workshop then? Okay, so we'll go ahead and close the workshop and we'll move on to the meeting. And I'm sorry it took so long, but I think we got a lot of really good information. I think it was worth it. So we will go on to open the September 6th High Springs Community Redevelopment Agency meeting. I have asked Ms. Jessica Hall to do our invocation for us, and then after that we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance again. Okay.
Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for allowing us to assemble ourselves together in the city of High Springs to conduct the business at hand. We pray that you would lead us and guide us. We pray that our motives here tonight will be ones that will prove successful for the upbuilding of our city and our community. We pray that we would all work together in harmony and in unity, and that you would also continue to bless our city commissioners, our first responders, and which include our police officers and our fire department. Continue to protect our community and all those that dwell therein and all those who visit this place. We thank you, and we ask also that you would continue to bless our children in this community and our schools. In Christ's name we pray, amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Jenny, will you do roll call, please?
Chair Lavin.
Here.
Vice Chair James is absent. Member Jameson.
Here.
Member Jones.
Here.
Member Williams.
Okay. Can I get a motion about the approval of the agenda? Wait, I need to change a couple things. So the first item, a special recognition for Wayne, we're going to move to the next meeting because he couldn't be here tonight, so we need to remove that. And then under business items, we need to add number 4, which is a lease that our attorneys drafted for the CRA to lease space to the city in the new CRA building. Okay, so if we could add that as item 4. So
I move that we approve the agenda with the exceptions of the special recognition and number 4, the CRA what?
a lease from the CRA to the
lease.
city.
Okay.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, it moves. Okay. So approval of the August 2nd, 2018 joint CRA Douglas Neighborhood Advisory Board meeting. Can I have a motion?
We would approve that. I move that we approve the Douglas Neighborhood Advisory Board minutes for August 2nd.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Oh, motion moves. Okay. Next item is business item, consideration of the Lanza Gallery Quilt Mural Grant application. And I'm going to turn it over to Christina at this point.
Okay, this is an application from Tina Corbett of Lanza Art Gallery. The property address is 23645 West US Highway 27. The request is for the approval of a 4x4 quilt mural to be created and hung on the facade of the Lanza Art Gallery with an estimated total cost of $250. Staff recommends approval of the application as submitted since it meets the criteria of being a mural and a facade improvement as outlined in the revised 2018 commercial facade grant application.
So we would be approving a payment of $125, half of this, correct? Okay. Tina, did you want to come up and talk to us about it, or does anybody have any questions for her? Come up to the microphone and state your name, please.
I'm Tina Corbett. I own the Lanza Gallery and Art Supply, and I think this would go in tune with some of the things you were talking about with the workshop for beautifying the city. The quilt murals will possibly bring tourists and interest, because if we get these quilt murals up on the walls of the businesses, we get on a registry that will go countrywide and be recognized where we have locations for these different murals. So it goes in line with some of the things they were suggesting in the workshop for beautifying the city with the mural pictures. So I'm just one of a few businesses that I think you already approved for the other businesses. Thank you.
I move that we approve the gallery quilt mural grant for the Lanza Gallery.
Do we have to put the dollar amount in there, in the motion?
$425.
I'll second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No, the motion carries. Okay, the next item of business is a consider approval to purchase downtown replacement banners. And I believe we have someone here to talk to us about this. Ross, do you want to come up and share with us?
Well, I mean, I put this proposal forward. There are 26 poles downtown that have no banners on them, and I don't like the new ones that are up, but that's a whole other conversation. They need to be up for 3 years, and the banners that we have up, the 6 themes, they're 10 years old and they were only designed to last 3 years, and they're actually substantially faded. Even the purple may not look that way, or the orange may not look that way, but they are. And so they aren't these holiday ones, they're the other ones. There you go. They're aren't there? We're missing some. There's missing 2 banners. There's 6. Nope. Or they got scanned wrong. However that got termed, but there's 2 other. Anyway, so my proposal is I went back to the company that originally created them and said, what's a quote to redo a set of basically 30 banners to fill the 26 posts, and you have that information, and my company's willing to foot $2,500 of that bill, which is more than half of it. My name's not on them. My company name's not on them. I don't care. I just think they're vibrant when they're new. They're colorful, and they'd help unify the downtown area. They can be produced and shipped in less than 3 weeks, or in approximately 3 weeks, so they'd be here at the beginning of October. And then we'd have something up on the poles, assuming city staff have time to get them up when they can. But they're unique. The company that made them liked them so much, they actually toured the United States for a year and a half to all kinds of Main Street organization and other public events where they had a booth display where they advertised banners, and our banners were part of their booth for a year and a half because they were uniquely designed. They're not stock, and they were designed with a lot of community input at one time when we had a Main Street program and input from businesses. So that's in front of you. If the cost is on it, there's an option to go with something that's more shiny and is digitally printed. Would probably last about the same amount of time. That's less expensive, and I offered to contribute $1,800 towards that cost. And I'll answer any questions, but I just think, we still have Christmas banners up, literally on 3 poles, because we haven't paid attention to that artistic element of our downtown area. So let's take care of them.
This is in addition to the business ones that we have where the people paid for them. This is in addition to, correct?
The business ones have to be up there for 3 years.
Right, I'm saying this is in addition to those.
These are the
It's
poles that don't have those on them. He had given us a list. I think Jenny has it up there with the red lines in it that show the poles where there aren't banners. All the ones that he has highlighted in red are where there are not banners currently. The poles in the downtown region.
Well, I think you take advantage of it. He wants to basically do the fit. We're okay with the money on that, and this can be done.
That's very admirable.
How would you determine which banners of the 30? I mean, I'm just saying it's just a random selection, Ross.
We do what I was suggesting. We do 4 sets.
Right.
Of the 6, and then we can just place them, accordingly.
Sequentially type of deal.
Originally, they were designed. All of them are the 6 colors through the spectrum, so they were designed to be rainbow and lined up that way. We can't quite do that, but I would say the dive one might go near the dive shop. The bike one might go near the bike shop.
Really?
Maybe. The art, a nice new arts one could go in front of the art store.
Stunned.
Well, what are the 2 that we're missing?
There's, and unfortunately, I can't believe I did this, but I left my own file folder at home. But there's one that says arts, and maybe it's 5.
I think it's only 5.
Oh, shop. No, there's arts and shop.
Right.
There's 2 that are missing.
Right.
So the shop one one of those is still up. A couple of them are still up. They're the orange ones that have the parts of the profile that can't see cash register. That say shop High Springs. And then the one that is arts, I want to say it's green. Yeah, it's the green. Art.
Okay.
And the bike one is actually double-sided, because otherwise in the sun, it's blue. So that's actually equivalent of 4 banners, thicker. And that yellow is actually, you don't have to move those up, that can fall apart.
Somebody's got to put them up.
Oh, yeah, on Fridays we do the cutting.
Okay. I'm just saying we can get them, but if we're not going to put them up and not maintain them or make sure we're doing it, then
So we'll take down the 2 banners, Christmas
Well, leave them up.
You could leave them.
Well, yeah, it's gonna be here before we know it.
The businesses may like the advertising, early, like early.
Right, sure.
No, I think
Pioneer
it's,
Day ones can probably come down too.
Yeah,
I
right.
mean, essentially, there's 26 banners that aren't the committed ones, and even the committed ones, there's an agreement that those can come down
during the
for certain
holidays.
seasonal and
Right.
holiday and stuff.
Right.
Correct.
I'm just curious, I'm sorry, I was just wondering if you did a post service for 20 years. I just wanted to know what the budget would be and the company, what company was using that was paying for not only the local company. And then putting banners in the city of High Springs.
Well, the banners that we just recently sold for $100 were done by an outside company. But this is, this company that roll up the downtown decoration, they're a vendor and provider to the Main Street. They support the Main Street program nationally, which is how we were originally connected with them. They worked with us. The poles that we have actually have a metric spacing, so a lot of banners don't necessarily fit, and so they customize the exact height. That actually keeps them from getting stolen. There's not enough slack in them to pull them off the pole. You have to be able to get up there and use the tool. So they were the company that was from the quality of the material and working with our artwork that was chosen years ago. We're willing to do it. They have a lot of setup information. We do it on an actual multicolored silk screen, high quality dyed file. And we weren't able at the time to find that locally.
That's the big thing, was they couldn't find anybody locally.
That do it. There are other companies that will do banners and everything, but
The other thing, because I asked Ross that question, and the other thing is they lasted for 12 years. And they were supposed to be 3 to 4 year banners, so that, the wear that they got out of them was well beyond it.
I'm just curious, are these the same banners that year ago that they were
No.
$800?
No.
No. Those are the ones that are up.
Okay.
Those are the ones that are up.
That's what I was nervous
Oh,
about.
no.
Completely different.
Oh, yeah. That was crazy.
These are ones they did 12 years ago. They had them throughout town, and then over the years, we still have a few left up, but they got a good 10 years out of those banners. And because of that quality and, that they'd had the relationship, Ross contacted them again.
I'll make a motion, we purchase the downtown replacements, take advantage of Stranberg's generosity.
With which fabric, Scott? There's one on Umbrella
I would
fabric.
do option one.
Huh?
I would do
Option one. Okay.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries.
With the.
What's the time frame?
Event in the beginning of October. It would be nice to have you up for it. If it's okay with the board, I'll call them tomorrow and let them know you voted yes. And I will get a check this week, Monday, when the city's open. They'll start production in
Are you okay with that, Mayor?
I don't know why you just.
Well, it's the CRA board money.
What I propose is.
And Christina, I just want to make, if that's okay, I'll call Ted.
Why don't you just write the check for the whole thing and then we'll reimburse you?
From a tax perspective, I should write the check to the city, and Ben.
I know. That doesn't pose an issue, right? I mean, as far as it's approved, he can do that.
Okay. Next item is to consider approval to purchase holiday banners. It's part of the same company, but different banners that are specifically for holiday. And that's on the second page of what we have here under the 4 holiday banners. 'Tis the season, peace, joy, joy, joy. The numbers are on the second page.
And their pictures are over here.
So what is the suggestion?
So the suggestion, I mean, somewhere in there, there's, for the holiday banners, out of the ones that are pictured, I recommended, I think, 4 that you, and then your options are how many poles do you want to buy them for. All of the designs for the holiday banners are similar to ones that at one time were reviewed by a lot of people in the community. Now, can you scroll to the holiday banner ones? Yeah, down to the pictures. Now, a lot of people, because we live here in Florida, they didn't want anything that looked like a snowflake. That's too northern. A lot of people didn't like the idea of showing something that looks like a package on banners. And so the ones that were recommended, I think, I mean, all of these would have been acceptable. We have the bottom right, the horns. We have had the ones that say joy, joy, joy. We have had the ones that say peace. And then the holly leaf and the Christmas tree version at the bottom, and some of were just the other ones I think were the options that I was recommending in terms of color, but anybody could go with that. And there's a big debate between where you say season's greetings or whether you say Merry Christmas. And so there's a little bit of mix in that too. And so really it was a matter of how much money, and you don't necessarily have to decide tonight to have those up in time for the holidays, but how many posts do you want to put them on, and what kind of a mix do you want to do? The ones that we have, again, have been around now. Most of them have been around for almost 10 years, and they're fading. And this comes up every year with holiday stuff because that stuff's expensive to buy and store and keep in good shape. So
I think we had some budget constraints that Christina was concerned about, that we would maybe need to wait until October to discuss this.
I really like this, and I think since we're buying the other ones right now, maybe we could phase them in, maybe, like even next year, we kind of space it out a little bit just because of the other, but I appreciate Ross doing all of that, and but that way it's not so much all in one, because even if we straddle it in October, we can, or we could also look at it again next October, or
I mean, originally, because the cost to buy all the poles was so expensive, I want to say originally only 15 or 20 holiday banners were ever purchased. The same reason I think only 6 to 10 Pioneer Day banners were ever purchased. It's like buy. Because these are stock. We'll run them to fit our poles, but they're not custom size.
And you would like to hold.
Yeah, or we could even wait till October. I mean, it's there's other, it's. I love them. I mean, I think they're great, and it's a matter of.
Why don't you bring it back in October? The other two will be here, and it can be readdressed at that point in time. You have your budget. We can look and see what we want to do. And
We need to do a motion to do that?
it says consider approval.
Okay.
I mean, I would just simply say just put it on the agenda for the October meeting.
Right, there doesn't.
Right, just put it on the October meeting.
Okay. All right, so we're going to table that until October. The next item that we added was a lease, and Rich can explain. We are going to be moving in our CRA building soon, and we're going to lease some space to the city. Do you want to go over the quick terms that
I
they need?
I can give the very
Okay.
basics.
Okay.
I'm sure nobody's too interested in reading it word for word, but you do have the one coveted copy here in the room.
Okay, I'll take good
But
care
that's
of
okay.
it.
I've got it pulled up on my iPad. But basically, it's a very standard lease from the CRA to the city of High Springs, and we actually modeled it after the Gainesville CRA's lease. We contacted them because they've already been through this process, so there's no need to reinvent the wheel when it's not necessary. So it's the rent terms are $619 per month. We have to come up with a fair market value, and that's based on the square footage that's being used there. And it's a 1-year lease with options to renew it for up to a couple years. There is an option for the city and the CRA to adjust the price likely upward. But the language that we inserted, just in case there's no agreement or that gets overlooked, which is very common in the tenant-landlord situation with the automatic renewals, is just a 3% basically cost of living type increase, just something standard, just to stay with market trends. So this is sort of crossing our T's and dotting our I's here. Following up on the recent acquisition of this. Technically, it's probably already been approved to enter into a lease, but it's probably a good idea, since we're talking about it tonight, to entertain a motion to approve. We set it up for both Commissioner Lavin as chair and Ms. Wright as director of the CRA to sign it on behalf of the CRA. And then on behalf of the city, have the mayor sign off on that.
And the reason we need this now is because the county commission has asked us for this as part of the CRA renewal and the extension. They want to see this lease, and we need to get it to them like yesterday. So we urged Rich to bring it tonight so that we could move forward with this.
This is going to have to be something, and then roll call stuff, right? Yes. Correct.
What we can do on that, Scott's obviously not here tonight, but we did talk about that briefly, and sort of echoing what his thoughts were, is that he believes that it's already been approved, but I think maybe what we should do is have a motion, at least for the CRA side of it, to sign off on it tonight, and then we will get with the mayor tomorrow and talk about that issue more and see if we need to have that on the agenda for the 20th.
Okay.
I'm sorry, the 13th.
I'll make a motion to approve the lease. I'll leave it at that. And then.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so moved that it's approved. I'll give this copy back to you, or we'll sign it, okay?
Thank you.
All right. All right, so now we're going on to discussion items, and this is one that Christy and I are happy to bring to you. We have an idea for the lots in the Douglas neighborhood where we're trying to do this extension, and we have Gary Hankins and Communities That Care Community Land Trust here to do a presentation to us to explain to everyone here what a community land trust is. It's a wonderful, novel idea to keep housing affordable, and we want them to share with you. So we're going to invite Gary and whomever he chooses to bring up with him to share with us.
I'll just start this awareness. A couple of things to give you something to take home, because what I need is the PowerPoint up. Not that program. Do you have the PowerPoint?
Do you need him to talk into a microphone, Jenny? If you could talk into the microphone so she gets it on.
This one or that?
Either one, whichever's more comfortable for you.
No, that's it. All right, that's it. Start with the first. Oh, okay. All right. which way do I aim it? All right, great. So I'm Gary Hankins, and I'm the president of the Communities of Care Community Land Trust. I'm also the acting executive director. We're a new organization, and we're still in the building stage. Also tonight, our attorney, Terry Costello, is here. We have 2 of our board members of the 9 board members, Naquanda Joe and Greg McGann, here that participated in the workshop. Jerry Odom is a volunteer executive secretary for the organization. And then we have 2 law student interns, 2 or 3 that have been assigned to work with us. We have an arrangement with the Conservation Clinic at the Law College. And they're assisting us in our development of our legal forms for real estate transactions and the kinds of documentation that we'll need to qualify people for home ownership. So what I'm going to do tonight is just introduce you to the idea of what a CLT is, and start by saying it is one approach of many to dealing with the issue of affordable housing. But the point that I'm going to make and remake is that of the various alternatives that deal with affordable housing, the development of affordable housing, it's the only option that really addresses the issue of preserving a housing stock in perpetuity, which means not only for the present generation, but also for your children and your children's children. And we're going to talk about how this works. So let's just go through the the slides quickly. So what a land trust is a instrument in the toolkit of a community to separate the land from the building on the land. So for this reason, because we're separating these 2 sources of value, we call it a shared equity approach to home ownership. So essentially what happens is that the nonprofit holds title to the land and retains title to the land and leases that land at a nominal fee to an individual for the ownership of the improvements on that property. That could be a house, it could be a business. And but in general, we're talking about housing, affordable housing in this particular. And the lease that is used, that's called a 99-year lease, has elements in it which restrict the use of that property. It gives, for example, the CLT, Community Land Trust, the first option to buy that property back. The person wants to sell it. It also contains language in there about what the house can be sold for. So it's essentially, there's a price control element of the lease, which is the element that keeps that property affordable for future generations. So you have situations perhaps where there's a lot of gentrification going on, a lot of new building, land prices are going up, property prices are going up and out of people's reach. This stock of housing is kept within the reach of the average person with less income so that they're still able to buy a house. One of the ways of looking at this also is that you could think of it as an alternative to renting for some people. Because if you have sufficient income to go to a bank and get a mortgage to buy a house without involving a land trust, then you want to do that. So this is for people who are in a financial situation, or perhaps they're renting. The rents are constantly going up and increasing over time. They would like to get into home ownership. And in a home ownership situation, your mortgage is stable throughout the life of that mortgage. So you're not in a situation where your housing costs are constantly going up. And that's one of the advantages of a land trust. So it makes home ownership and rental, because community land trusts do own rental property and rent it out at below market rates. similar to the home ownership situation, and to keep that home affordable forever. So the CLT acquires and retains ownership of the land for the benefit of the community, and then sells or rents the improvements to income-eligible households. So there is an income eligibility aspect to this, so that when you apply for a CLT home, you have to go through a financial screening process to be sure that you qualify. And that would be based on family size and other considerations. The home buyer purchased the house, and they have the right to the land by value of the 99-year lease with the lease agreement to the CLT. So this summarized the key benefits, and also in the handouts that I sent out, particularly that one-pager, really covers a lot of the points that people who are excited about CLT homeownership emphasize, and the benefits for the individual and also for the community. One of the things at a community level that CLT does is often brings property that have been in decline, or where there's homes have been vacated, and there's no longer any taxes collected on that property. It brings those properties back onto the tax roll. But that's a definite advantage from the public point of view. I think that's it. So we've covered a lot of territory here. One person I forgot to mention is Stephen Weiss. Stephen is the housing office for the county of Washington County. So if you have any questions, or if there's any discussion about what I presented, we'll to respond to this.
I have rather a funny question. You said that there's no income eligible.
Yes.
What happens if someone was lucky enough to
Win the lottery.
win the lottery?
Yeah.
What happens then?
Well, they would stay in the house. Once they're qualified, and they buy that improvement on that lot, then that's theirs. There's also aspects, it's contained in that 99-year lease. That property can also be inherited by a child without any renewal of that 99-year lease. Anytime the house is sold and it's going to a totally new owner, then there's a new 99-year lease, and that person will have to be qualified. Yes, sir.
How do the property taxes work on that? They get CLT get the advantage of the homestead and different items and things like that, so it stays on the tax rolls and it continues to run the community.
Right. The advantages to the individual are the same as home ownership. So you get interest can be deducted from your income taxes. The taxes are based on the value of what the home can be sold for at the first of the year, January 1st of even year. And so what the value of a CLT home is defined in a land. It would be, if it's sold for $100,000, and there's a 3% increase per year that was built into the formula, it would be $103,000 the next year. And it would be taxed on the basis of that. The value of the land would not add to the tax burden for that thing. So actually, the paying taxes would be less than if they own the house and the lot.
Property itself.
Yes.
Harry, one of the things I realized as I did the research after we talked to you, if we donate lots like we've done in the past, like to Habitat or any other organization, once we donate it to Habitat, then the person can sell it and they can gain a benefit off that donation that we made as a city. In the land trust, our donation, our equitable contribution, whether it's just land or whether it's sewer, water improvements, that stays in perpetuity with the property, and the owners can never benefit from that.
That's right.
It stays for the next owners. So it stays as a community asset from one owner to the other. Our investment as a city, what we're donating and contributing, and any SHIP, maybe down payment assistance, stays with the house. It doesn't go to to that person that's selling the house. It stays with the unit, which creates that situation where High Springs retains that contribution forever, and we're not just giving a piece of property away. We create a situation where there's always going to be those lots and an affordable unit.
So I think Commissioner Lavin is emphasizing a point that I didn't emphasize enough, and that is that whatever the public contribution is in terms of the value to this property is captured by the land trust and stays with that property in perpetuity. So the person who has lived in the house and then sells it does not pocket that money that the community invested in down payment assistance or whatever kind of assistance is offered to them.
And then you also do some maintenance, right? You monitor maintenance.
The one thing on the last slide that I think the other thing I really want to emphasize is that there's really two aspects of a land trust. The one is the land transaction part, which is clear. We've kind of gone over that. The other part of it is the stewardship function. The stewardship function is that part of the work of the land trust, which is based on a rapport with the community that we're working with. And it includes things like homeowner education, financial literacy training, assistance with regard to credit scores and credit repair and those kinds of things. The CLT has a long-term interest in that family, in that household, and in that property. So that, for example, there might be a situation where there's some event or some crisis in a family and they have difficulty meeting the mortgage. Well, community land trusts around the state that are functioning often are in a situation where we'll step in and help that family get through that difficult period and keep them whole and keep them out of any kind of situation with the bank. The mortgage default rate on CLT homes is about 1/10 of what it is in the general market. And it's because of this stewardship function between the community land trust and the neighborhood that it's working in. So we seek to have a strong personal connection, and that would be very, very important in working with High Springs if we want to be back here and meeting with community leaders, any steering committee or people from the neighborhood, and developing that relationship, that bond of trust, and making sure that what we're doing is what the neighborhood needs and wants, and not what we think the neighborhood needs. So it's your tool, and we're here to offer it to you. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for coming out tonight. We appreciate that. Next item is our CRA timeline, finding of necessity, and plan discussion. And I will turn that over to Christina.
I just want to pass these out. This is kind of like the draft that our consultant has sent to us. They're going to be presenting, of course, on the 13th, the finding of necessity. This is just kind of like their initial findings. And so we've just attached this, the schedule, this extension timeline, just to kind of show. I know this month there is, in addition to the one we're tacking on to the 13th City Commission meeting, there's also one on the 20th, and these meetings are critical due to the spacing and the timing of, all the things that we need to achieve between now and hopefully November. And so anyway, just wanted to kind of make sure that we were all kind of on the same page as far as, the steps that we're looking at and, just as far as process and then also, what to kind of expect next week when GAI comes and does their presentation for the finding of necessity.
So they're going to be here at 6 o'clock next week for that mini meeting that we're going to have before the regular commission meeting, okay? And we also, I don't know, okay. In other words, she's telling us we're going to have a lot of meetings.
After October, I mean, it should be back to normal, but just this month and then, next month, there's going to be a couple extras, but then,
We've met with all 5 of the county commissioners. Christine and I have been down there and met with them. We met with their economic development person, and we've gotten a lot of good instruction on what they want to see and how to do this. Our problem now is getting all this data together in a manner that's going to work for their staff to be able to review it before we actually present to the commission, and that's why we're having to run through all this, trying to get everything pulled together, because they don't want it the day before, they want it weeks before, and so that's kind of where we're at today. So we're not going to bail ship, we're just going to keep coming to meetings, okay?
Okay.
All right, is there anything else you needed to discuss with that? Okay. All right, chair report, I just did it. We went to a lot of meetings. We're doing a lot of work. CRA director report.
yeah, as far as the market pavilion, we're still waiting on the findings from the mitigation study. Workforce and affordable housing, again, Commissioner Lavin and I met with the commissioners. Everybody seems to really, it's been very well received, the things that we are trying to accomplish. And then next Friday, the 14th, we are touring the SWAG Center, kind of as a larger scale model of, some of the things that we've heard that the community would like to see over in this expansion area. And then as far as events, tomorrow, Tina that was here earlier, the Lanza Gallery has been instrumental in organizing this chalk art event. We already have, I think it was 30 children signed up to do chalk art in front of the old school, and I believe 10 adults, so it should be a lot of fun. Lions Club's coming out and doing hot dogs and refreshments. Should be a lot of fun tomorrow night. And then, of course, on the 16th, Michael Loveday and his crew is producing the Folk in the Springs event throughout town starting at noon. And then, of course, our community block party in October. We're going to be hanging the quilt murals. We've got Susie's been instrumental with our Florida Quilt Trail and, developing this walking tour throughout town. So, and then, of course, the open house for the depot also. So that should be a lot of fun.
And we've gotten a lot of business response from that more and more businesses are participating, and some of the restaurants are going to do booths down there on Railroad Avenue so people can get food and just walk around and not have to go sit. So the merchants are really getting on board and enjoying what we're trying to do out there. Okay? Is there anything else? If there's not, then we can take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right, thank you.